Hello everybody, welcome to this webinar, the first in the series. The purpose is to learn Moodle, the basic skills, and if you have basic skills, maybe take it to the next level and see how can you enhance your teaching and the students' learning with using Moodle in different ways. We'll be focusing on different modules, and today's module is powerful and very useful for many reasons and for many purposes. So today we'll be focusing on quiz module. Before I go there and I start talking about that, I would request you to turn off your mic and camera also if you want to get an improved transmission of this webinar. If you have any questions, you can use the chat window and type your questions there. And then at the end, if you have, I'll also ask you at the end if you have any questions to ask your questions directly using your mic. Another important thing, this doesn't finish here. This is a start. When you find it, and if you want to use it, if you have any further questions, you can also always get in touch with me. We can then focus on your individual need and your individual use and come up with solutions which are customized to your use and your ideas. So going to the introduction of this webinar, so we are going to do a quiz, and we will focus on setting up a quiz, how to build a quiz, using a quiz report, and making pedagogical choices related to this activity module. How to use it, when to use it, what are the best practices kind of thing. As I said, quiz is a very strong feature of Moodle. It offers many options, many possibilities. You can use HTML code, and even if you don't know how to use HTML code, the quiz editor gives you the option to upload graphics to your quiz, format text, media like videos or pictures or Word documents and PDFs, create links. So all these possibilities are there. Then right from beginning, that is creating a quiz, taking and grading, you have many options and many features can help you. And you can show questions to minimize the possibility of students sharing with each other. And then summative and formative, you can use it in both formats of an assessment, single and multiple attempt of a quiz as well as questions. Then you can create question banks for yourself, and you can use the question banks which are already there, because whenever you create a question in any quiz, it goes to the question bank. Then variety of questions, there are around 16 type of questions available in this module, and you can choose which one is suited for your discipline, for your subject, or for the particular purpose that you want to use. Then you can create reports, or you can access reports. It tells you about the grades of the students, the kind of responses, statistics, and manual grading can also be done. So first I'll start with showing you how to set up a quiz. And when we say setting up a quiz, so we mean how this quiz appears to the students and how does it behave when they are attempting it. So number of questions, for example, to display on each page, allowing or disallowing retry of quiz, all these are related to behavior issues of the quiz once you create it. And then when we say building a quiz, so that is related to adding questions. And obviously you cannot add questions unless there's a container, that is the quiz page. So now I move to this and show you how to set and then build a quiz, and then we will discuss the pedagogical choices that you can make while you are using the quiz. So changing my screen and going to a course. So this is the course I'm in, and assuming that I'm teaching this course and I want to create a quiz here. So the typical way of doing it, that is adding an activity, a resource, and it should appear here as a link. If the link is not there, obviously you cannot do anything. So our first task is to set up the quiz and create the link. So for that, we go to add an activity, a resource. We scroll down to the quiz module. We select it, we add it, and it opens the setting up page for us. And on this page, there are around 14 areas we need to deal with. So the first area is you need to assign this quiz a name. So let me call it any name that you want to give it. You can give it a name by the topic that you want to quiz your students for, or as it suits you. Then description, you can add a description which may include some information for the students as well as some instructions for them. As you can see, description should explain why the student is taking tell the students the unusual features of the quiz, right? If there are any animations or flash plugin, for example, if there's a video in your quiz, the student cannot play it unless there's a flash plugin, or there's a pop-up window, so you need to tell them all these things so they are ready for that and there are no surprises for them. Then this is another issue, another area. If you want to display this on the course page, click here. It will be displayed on the course page, but as I like to keep my course page clean, so I don't click here. I keep it just this thing on my course page, and once the student click on this, then they can see this description. But if you click here, they will be able to see the description on the course page. If you don't know what something means, just click on this question mark and it will open the description of that area for you, and you can read and you can understand it. Timing is very important. So you want the quiz to open on a particular date. You need to enable this, set the date from here, the month, the time, and close the quiz. So you can close it from here again. I want it to start at 12th of May, 3 p.m. that is now, and I want it to close at 6 after 1 hour. So I need to enable these areas to be able to set up this time. If I don't enable them, then the quiz is open forever, and whenever the students want to do it, they can do it, and there's no time limit set on it. So this is opening the quiz and closing the quiz. This is time limit. This time limit is about the time limit on the quiz page. So a countdown timer is displayed. So if a quiz is 1 hour, the students will see the countdown timer, and I also need to enable it to show it. So for example, I give them 1 hour only. So once they start doing the quiz, it will be displayed on their quiz page. When time expires, so what should happen? If the student, some of them have completed in 1 hour, some of them are still working on it. So when this time is over, 1 hour limit is over, what will happen? So you have a number of options. Open attempts are submitted automatically. So if you are giving a summative quiz, you want the students, all of them, to finish within that time limit. You don't want to allow them to use any extra time. Then probably this is the option. So the moment this 1 hour is over, all their options, all their attempts will be submitted and graded if it is auto-graded. You can give them a grace period for, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes. So if somebody is still doing it, they will get the warning, but 5 minutes time will remain there, and the answers will be submitted after 5 minutes. And attempts must be submitted before time expires, or they are not counted, which means a second or a minute before the time is over, the students must submit their attempts, otherwise the quiz doesn't count, their answers are not valid. I think this is a little bit extreme, so I never choose this option. I try to restrict myself to either the first option or the second option. This one also creates confusion because when we say time limit, so it should be within the time limit. Submission grace period. So if you read here, if what to do when time expires is set to allow a grace period, right? So this is the amount of extra time that is allowed. So how much grace period you want to allow them? Obviously, we don't want to allow days. There's always some few minutes. So once you set it up, then you can change it to that. Right now, it's not working for me, probably because of these options. I didn't choose one of the options which is required. I need to choose this one to enable it. If this one is not not selected, then it will not work. So I select this one, and now it should work for me. So I want them 5 minutes of grace time only. But if it is here or if it is here, then this option will not work. To make this option work, I need this grace period time option. Then going to the grade, if you have set up your grade book in your course and the grade book as categories, this percentage for quizzes, this percentage for assignments, this percentage for presentations, then you can choose your category from there. And if you have put a quizzes or tests or exams category in your grade book, then you can assign this quiz to one of these categories. But right now, because there is no grade book set up for this course, so I cannot select a grade category. Grades to pass, let's say 70%. Attempts allowed, this is important, how many attempts you want them to do. If it is a summative quiz, obviously you just want one attempt. But if it is a formative quiz, the purpose is to make them learn, not to assess them, not to give them a grade. Then you can choose as many attempts you want them to try. Once you choose, let's say 3 attempts, then from here, you can decide what should be the grading method. So if you selected 3 attempts for them, so what you want, they did the quiz 3 times. First time they got 20 marks, second time they got 10 marks, third time they got 40 marks. So if you choose IS grade, then their IS grade will be counted. But if you choose average grade, then out of these 3 attempts, only their average grade will be counted. That is the total of 10, 20, 40 divided by 3. But if you choose the first attempt, then whatever they get in the first attempt, that grade will be counted. And if you choose the last attempt, then whatever grade they get in the last attempt, only that will be counted. But I believe that if you are giving them multiple attempts, the option of multiple attempts, then the best option is either highest grade or average grade. Because if you choose first attempt and last attempt, then it is better not to give them any attempt and just keep it to the first attempt only, because then you are not letting them use the option of multiple attempts in the grading method. So they do the first time, they get 10, the last time they get 40, but if you select first time, then they just get 10 marks from the quiz. So for multiple attempts, it's better to use either highest grade or average grade. Then coming to the layout is how the questions appear to the students. So if you look here, the layout is every question on a single page. When I say every question on a single page, so the students will see only one question per page. But if I choose the number of questions and different things, then probably multiple questions will appear on a single page. So that is the layout, how the students see the quiz. It's better to have 2 questions, not too many questions, because scrolling down takes time. So if you choose 1 question or 2 questions on one page, the page will automatically change to the next question and the students don't have to scroll down. Navigation method, whether you choose free, so the students can navigate themselves. By navigation, it means if I want to go to, instead of doing question number 1, I want to go to question number 3, so it allows me to go to question number 3. So that is free method. But if I select sequential, So then I'll not be able to go to question number 3 unless I do question number 1 and question number 2 first. So that is sequential method. So it's up to you whether you choose free, so the students can jump straight to question number 5 before doing question number 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you want to choose sequential, so then the student will do question number 1 first, question number 2 second, question 3 third, and they will not be allowed to do it randomly. Sequential method is good if you have a quiz where the questions build on each other. So to do question number 5, first the students need to do question number 1, then question number 2, then question number 3, and then question number 4, and then question number 5. So sequential method is good for this design of the quiz where each question builds on the previous question and the student is finally able to reach the ultimate question. It's like the video game. To reach the next stage, you first need to do the previous stage, and if you haven't completed the previous stage, you will not be able to go to the next stage. So sequential sequence may be good for differentiation. So you have a group of students and you want to see who can do better than others. So then you have a number of questions and you have sequential sequence, so you can differentiate them. Some students will stop after doing first 2 questions. Some students will stop after doing question number 3 and 4. And there will be some intelligent students who will reach question number 5. So for that, then sequential option is better. Question behavior. So I said this is my question number 1, this is question number 2, question number 3. I want them to appear to the students in the same sequence. To all students, I want that student A gets these questions in different sequence, student B gets the same questions in different sequence, and student C gets the same questions in another sequence. So for that, you can choose then shuffle within questions. So the questions will be shuffled, and if you say no, then the questions will appear in the same sequence to all students. But to counter cheating and to counter that they don't share the answers with each other and the questions with each other, it's better to choose shuffle within questions. So every time a student attempts a question, the sequence will be shuffled, whether it is for the same student or it is from student to student. So it is a better option for giving them a little bit of thinking. If they do a quiz first time and you have given them multiple attempts, the same number of questions, if they appear in the same sequence, they will not think about those questions in the second attempt. So shuffle is useful for this purpose. Then how questions behave. So when we say how questions behave, so I got a quiz and there's question number 1 and I choose adaptive mode for all these questions. So adaptive mode means if the student put a wrong answer, the student has the option to do it again. So the question will not close. So for example, I got this question and the student did A, whereas the answer is B. So when the student submits this question, it will tell him that the answer is wrong and try again. So that is adaptive mode. No penalty will be applied in adaptive mode. But then there is adaptive mode. For this one there are penalties. So I do this first time and this is wrong answer, so certain deductions will be made when I change my answer to B after the question tells me that this was wrong. But if I choose adaptive mode with no penalties, then no matter how many times I attempt this question to be correct, I will not be deducted any grades, any marks. So that is the adaptive mode without penalties and the adaptive mode with penalties. Then deferred feedback. So the students complete the quiz, they submit it, and then the feedback comes after some time. And this deferred feedback is good for if you want to grade the quiz, if you want to give them feedback, and then you want them to be able to see the feedback. But if you want to give them immediate feedback, so then you need to embed them in your questions, and the moment they attempt a question, they will get the feedback, and for that we need to choose immediate feedback. Then interactive with multiple tries. So interactive with multiple tries mean they can answer a question, then some kind of feedback appears there. You may write a sentence, oh, you are just there, try again. So this comment, oh, you are just there, try again, is an example of interactivity, and the students can keep on trying till the time they reach there, and every time they try, they get some kind of feedback and some kind of comment by you. Now coming to deferred feedback with CBM and immediate feedback with CBM. So I'll explain what is CBM, and for that I'll need to change my screen again. So going to my PowerPoint. Yes, so CBM is certainty-based marking. And as you can read the definition of certainty-based marking, when a student answers a question, they also have to state how sure they are of the answer. Not very sure, fairly sure, or very much sure. And then based on their level of certainty, their grade is adjusted. So you can see here, there are three answers to this question. The student choose the middle one, but that doesn't finish here. Then the student need to tell his choice based on what certainty. So if the student say quite sure, it means the student is thinking that he or she is absolutely sure that this answer is correct. But if the student is just not sure and making a guess, then probably they will choose 1 or 2. And in your instructions, when you are setting up the quiz, you can tell them what will happen if to their certainty levels and how it will affect their score. So it should be part of your instructions to them. This certainty level is good. So the students just don't randomly choose. Like sometimes we go and get multiple choice questions or surveys and we just randomly choose some options and submit that. I'll share with you an incident that I observed once I was conducting entrance tests to the university in Saudi Arabia. A student who was late, he came and then I gave him the exam. The student started doing exam, and believe me, he didn't read a single question because the answer sheet was separate and the questions were separate on separate sheet. He just started going into a pattern, random pattern on the answer sheet and just circling that random pattern. And at the end of the exam, when I was observing him and I kept it separate to see what happens to this random choice without reading the questions even, he got 17 out of 20, which means his guessing was somehow, it was luck, it was his lucky day, and whatever he circled by chance was correct, 17 out of 20. So if there was a certainty level, this student wouldn't dare just to choose random. He would need to tell his certainty level, and then based on his certainty level, his grades would have been adjusted. So further details, what is certainty-based marking? So after each answer, students say how sure they are. And then obviously we are not sure, but different people understand the word sure for themselves. So it's better to give some kind of levels there. So C1 is not very sure, and then if they choose this one, an adjustment of 67% is made. If they choose C2, an adjustment of 80% is made, and if they choose C3, then something lower than 80%. The reasons for choosing certainty-based marking, so obviously you want the students to think and not just to mechanically and without thinking choose their answers. If it is a multiple choice quiz, then you want them to, through thinking, to understand the question and the issues involved there. Then you want to challenge them and they will be careful. They will not make a choice unless they're sure about it. So these are some of the advantages of certainty-based marking. Try it, and then if you need to discuss it further, then we can discuss it at some stage. So that is about CBM, and CBM comes with two options: deferred feedback with CBM and immediate feedback with CBM. Then allow redo within an attempt. So within an attempt means the quiz attempt. If you choose adaptive mode, then it should become active, but it is not coming active. So maybe one of the options here may make it active, or if you choose from here the first one, so then it may work. But it's still not working. It depends on one of these options. You can check it here. Why is it not active? So if enabled, then when students have finished attempting particular question, they will see a redo question button. And the redo question allows them to attempt another version of the same question without having to submit the entire quiz and attempt and start another one. So this allow redo, it is for the question, whereas this one here, attempts allowed, is for the whole quiz. So if you choose 2, the whole quiz will be, the student will be able to attempt the whole quiz 2 times, but this one is only for the questions. As I said, right now it's not active for me. Maybe it's because of one of these settings. So I need to discover why is it not active, but I'll do it later, and you can try it. So each attempt builds on the last one, as I explained here, sequential sequence where you choose a quiz, where each question is built on the last one, on the previous one, like a video game. So then you choose on the last one, and if you say yes, so if question number 1 is wrong, the student will not allowed to proceed to question number 2. And if question number 1 is correct, question number 2 is wrong, then the student will not be able to proceed to question number 3 unless first 2 questions are correct. Review options. So what do the students see when they finish the quiz, or even to you when they get their feedback? So during the attempt, if you choose these options, they will see these things during the attempt, immediately after the attempt, later while the quiz is still open, so they have submitted and the quiz is open, so they can see these options, and after the quiz is closed. So it depends on you which one you choose for them to see. So the attempt, obviously it should remain open. Whether correct, I mean, if it is sort of immediate feedback, then you can choose whether correct, marks, specific feedback, what kind of feedback they can see. If you want them to see your remarks and your grade, then you can choose one of these options. For each option, you can check what a particular option means, and then you can make your choices according to the need of your quiz. Appearance, this is not very important. Basically, this one is about when the students are doing their quiz. So should they be able to see their picture or not? For me, it's not important if they see their picture or not. So this one, you can leave it out. Decimal places in grade, you can choose according to what you want them to see. And then decimal places in question grade. So for each question, how many decimal places after point they can see. Show blocks during quiz attempts, no or yes, you can choose according to that. And by blocks, will be shown during quiz attempts. So this is an example of a block, and you can choose them as you want. Extra restrictions on attempts. So if you want to add a password and you just want them to attempt multiple times but not without password, or you decide that, okay, if a student reaches this level, I will allow them to have a second attempt. So you add a password, and those students who reach that level, then you give them the password, they're able to do the second attempt, but the others are not allowed to do the second attempt because they could not achieve that level. So you can choose then this option, add a password, keep it with you, and then according to your decision, you can share it with the students whom you want to allow to do another attempt. Required network address. So for example, you are in the computer lab and your students are taking this quiz there, but you don't want it will not open in any other place. And I think for one course, I worked it out and they did it for one of the faculty member in Horog for the computer lab. So the quiz was open only in the computer lab and not anywhere else. Then enforced delay between first and second attempt. So you want the students to attend the quiz immediately. You want them to attend it after 10 minutes, after a day, or after a week. So maybe what you can do, let's say you are teaching today, and after you have taught your lesson, you want them to do a quiz. They did the quiz, but now you want to see what kind of further teaching you need, and then you allow them the quiz after that further teaching. So you can give a day's break. So when they finish the quiz, you can check, you can decide what they need or what kind of further teaching they need. You teach it the next day, and then you allow them to do the quiz again. That is the delay between the first and the second attempt. You can choose it according to your options. Then enforced delay between later attempts. So there are more than 2 attempts, and you also, again, you are teaching 3 or 4 lessons in a week. You want to keep on doing this practice after each lesson. So the quiz will be attempted all 4 days at the end of the lesson, and then you can add that gap here. So if you enable it, again, due to some option here, because I didn't add some option here, it's not working, it's not active. But if I choose the options rightly, then it will work. Browser security, important. So full screen pop-up with some Java security. So the screen will pop up and they will not be able to access other things in the course and other things on the browser. But remember, nothing is 100% safe, nothing is 100% foolproof. So the student knows the ways and means how to fool the system. They're better hackers than us, so they can bypass this browser security, and they can do it, but still you can try it and maybe they don't try to break this security. Then allow quiz to be attempted offline using the mobile app. If you choose yes, again this option is not active. One reason for some of the options being not active is the plugin. If the plugin is missing from our Moodle, from our learning management system, then that option will not work. So if you need a particular option, you can't activate it, then please contact us. We will check if you have a plugin for that, and if the plugin is missing, then we can install the plugin and that may work. So for this one, I'll check if the plugin is missing, then we will install the plugin, and then probably student might be able to attempt the quiz offline without internet on their mobile apps. So I'll try to explore this one a little bit and see if it is an issue of the plugin or if it is an issue of some option here. Then coming to the overall feedback, this is important. So there are grade boundaries. So a student gets 100% in the quiz. What you want to say to that students. So let's say the students got 100. The student got 100%, and you want the students to get this one. For second 70%, you want to tell them keep trying. So this message will appear to them whenever the students fall within that grade boundary. You can add more here. So you can go further below 70, 50, 40, and you can type a message here. It can be just a simple message, to encourage them, or it can be a very serious message, or it can be a message where you guide them for the next steps. So somebody gets 70% and you want them to study some certain things or do certain tasks to improve their grades. So maybe you can then provide details there for those resources or those tasks or what they need to do to improve their grade. So it doesn't need to be just something innocent, something superficial. It can be something as a next step which can help them learn and which can help them do things to improve their grade further. These are not needed in our current system. So no need to change anything here. Obviously, availability shown course page. Yes, it must be on the course page. Otherwise, the students will not be able to do it. So common module settings, restrict access and competencies. These you need not to do anything. So once again, these are the important areas. So you set the name of the quiz. If you don't set the name, you will not be able to do anything. Here you need to include all details of for the students, what kind of quiz, what to expect, how many questions are there, what type of questions are there. So anything which can facilitate them in attempting their quiz, and as I said, there are no surprises for them, you can include in this description. Then timing, you can set up dates, you can set up the time limit for that quiz. So if I set 1 hour and I set the date between 15 and 16, so any time between, and I don't set this time, or I set a bracket of time, so starting from 12th 3 o'clock to 13th 4 o'clock, anytime they can attempt this quiz, but when they start their attempt, it will be only 1 hour. They will have 1 hour to complete this quiz. They cannot do more than 1 hour, but for this to work, it is important that I set here the number of attempts to 1 only. If the number of attempts are more than 1, then obviously they will be able to do it repeatedly within this time frame. But if I set it to 1 only, then they will be able to attempt it only once in this time frame. So that is time. Then grades. If you have a grade book, you can add this quiz to that category. Then grades to pass and how many attempts to allow, layout, and all these things. So once we provide all this information and set up these parameters, then we go and we save and return to the course. And the first step is done. After doing it, I think something is missing here. What's missing? Did I miss some? Oh yeah, right. So let me remove this. Cannot be greater than the maximum possible grade. So my maximum possible grades are 10, but I set up 10. So let me say 5. Now it should allow me to save it. 2, right. And one thing, when you're trying it, don't be afraid. Just try it. If you don't want your students to see it while you are trying and testing it, hide it from the students. They will not be able to see it, and you will be able to do whatever you want to do. So you break nothing by trying things. So try it as many times possible, as many options possible in your Moodle. Now we have set up the step is to add contents to it, the questions. So we again, once the link is there, we click here, it will take us now to the page where it asks us to edit quiz. So I click on this edit quiz, and now I can add my questions. So from here, I can add a new question and I can choose one of these questions. At the end of this webinar, I'll be sharing with you a Word document where I have certain links for you to explore. And one of the links is about these questions. You can go to that link and you can see what different questions mean. But to show you different type of questions, so obviously this question is multiple choice. This one is a close question. A close question is normally used in languages where you skip a word and the student need to provide that word. here it's easier because the words are there and the students need to pick from here. So it is a close as well as it is a fill in the blanks question. If I remove these options from here, then it will become a closed question. This one is a short answer, so the students need to write a short answer. This one is match the icon to their side, so this is a matching question. The icon is there and I need to choose from here what does it represent. This one is true and false, and then other type of questions can also be there. So again, a very short answer, multiple choice, short answer as a text, and then there's a question with an image. And as I said, you can add images, you can add videos, you can add documents to your quiz questions. All these possibilities are there. This is a matching question, and this is an essay type of questions where the students need to write longer answers, and they can also format it from here. The good thing is in our Moodle, the students can not only write, but they can also record themselves. So that is also an option for them. So let me just add one question. So I want them to do a true and false. And the first thing I need to do is to provide the question name. This question name, remember, it is only for you. So I got a quiz and the code name for that quiz is F, and this is the first question in that F quiz. So F1 is only for my reference. The students will not see it, they will only see the question which is here. So this is, for example, the question. The default mark for this question is 1, but you can, if you have 100 marks for a quiz, there are 10 questions, then obviously you need to add 10. But right now, because my quiz is 10 marks total, so I think 1 mark is suitable for this. General feedback. After this question, if you want to give your students to read anything, to do anything, you can write that here. Alternately, you can record your audio here. You can record your video here. If you don't want to write anything, you just want them to listen to you, to your voice as in feedback, or watch your video and feedback. So you can just record yourself rather than adding a text here. ID number not needed because right now we are not using all these things, so no need for any ID number. So the correct answer, is this question false? If the correct answer is false, you can write false, but the student choose true. So if they choose true, then what you want them to do? You want them to give an answer, or you just want to tell them incorrect, try again, right? So the correct answer is false, but the student has selected true, and what you want them to see, so incorrect, try again. And feedback for the response, false, which is correct. So again, you can say well done, or you can, as I said, it depends on your quiz and what kind of feedback you want them to have. Obviously, this is very superficial feedback. As I said, if you want them to move to the next stage of something, you can add your instructions accordingly. You can accordingly change your instructions. So for example, they choose true, which is not correct answer, and then you want them to read again some text, you want them to watch the video again, so you can put your comments here. So let's say watch the video again at 2.3 minutes, right? So the student need to go to the video and watch that video again at 2.3 minutes. The video can be embedded here. Also, you can add video, you can add picture, video, your voice, you can record some voice, your voice or some other voice. You can add a video, your own video, record your own video. You can add some documents here. You can also add some links from here. And if you are doing mathematics, then you can use these editors for mathematics. All these things you can do from here. Formulas, this one is for math type. So math type editor, very powerful, different options. And this C is for chemistry, so you can add chemistry equations here. And I mean, it gives you all the options. There's nothing probably that you can't do with it. And if there's computer science, so then there are separate computer science quizzes which can be used and coding can be added here. So you have added your feedback, you have created a question, multiple tries, penalty for each try, incorrect try, so -1, and then you save change here. So you have added one question to your quiz, and now you can continue, you can add another one. Now let me also tell you how to add questions from the bank. So you can choose from here, and if you have built a question bank, so you can choose a question from that bank, and as I said, every time you create a question, that is added to the question bank. So either you create a lot of questions, add them to the question bank, and then when you are building your quiz, you just select those questions from that question bank. You can import also. Instead of adding a question, I want to choose this question, so I just need to go here and choose this question from the question bank, and they will be added to my quiz, and I can use them. Right, so this is question bank. You can also do it from the here. So you had created one question, but then you want to go and add other questions from the question bank. So you can choose from here, and let's say I want to add this question to it. So this question will be added to the quiz. I do not need to create any other question. So now I got two questions, right? And as I said, you can see how they appear to the students. So this is what the students see. They see the question, they see the question number, and if you have added time, they will also see a timer here for the questions. So this is how to create a question quickly. Now I need to ask you a question, and my question is, and you need to use the chat box to write your answer. Other than testing our students for grades, so we are not using it for assessment. How can we use quiz activity module to engage our students in synchronous and asynchronous lessons? So think for a minute and then write your answers in the chat, and let's see what comes. I hope all of you know how to access the chat. So the question is, other than testing our students, that is, we are not doing assessment. Excuse me. We just want to engage them in our lessons, whether synchronous or asynchronous. We want our lessons to be based on the principle of active learning. So how can we use this quiz module? What possible uses can be there? I mean, there are no right answers. Yes. Who's it?
This is Sultan from Harrow campus. For some reason, that is not available for me.
Sorry?
For some reason, chat is not available for me.
Okay, so you can think about it, and maybe later on you can share your answer. I got some ideas for you how to use it, or maybe if somebody wants to turn on their mic and share their ideas, they can turn on their mic and share their ideas. So first, what kind of assessment dimensions we got? I mean, when we say quiz, obviously our mind, because we are programmed and we have been listening to quiz as a mode of assessment, so we immediately start thinking of assessment. So what are the possibilities? What are the dimensions available with this quiz? So we can do formal assessment with this, we can do informal assessment. We can give immediate feedback to our students, and I'll show you at the end how this immediate feedback works, or we can give delayed feedback to our students. We can embed it in our lessons, or it can be a standalone at the end of the week, at the end of the module, at the end of the semester, one quiz as an exam or something. There can be verbal questions from you and answers from your students, and there can be non-verbal. So if you're using an image, for example, and you want to elicit some kind of responses from your students to that image, this is an example of non-verbal. Oral and written, luckily we got in our editor, as I showed you, the possibility to record yourself and to video record yourself, and the same is available to the students. If they, rather this afternoon what we did, we have made it default for them. They can also see the same audio record and video record buttons on their editors, so they can video record themselves. So let's say it's a presentation and you don't want students to record themselves on their mobile phones and send you their presentations. They can just go record themselves within Moodle and you will be able to see that. Then quizzes can be graded and ungraded, so you don't want to add any grade, you just want to add some comments. And as I said, it can be a ladder for moving up. So you do this question. After this question, the students do this task, which is told to them in the feedback. Then they do this question after doing that task, and in this way, it can be ungraded. So you use your feedback comments to keep them moving. There can be open-ended question and closed-ended question depending on what kind of questions you choose. It can be process-oriented and product-oriented. So you want them to engage in some learning process, learn something, self-directed learning, or you want them, you want to test them, you want to teach them for a week, and then you want to test them and give them some grades. So that is a product-oriented approach. A quiz can be brief, just one question, or it can be extended, more than one question in multiple formats, multiple stages, multiple sequences. So all these possibilities are there. Then how to choose question types. So I would recommend, or I would suggest using Bloom's taxonomy. So if you are thinking of multiple choice questions, probably they are good for testing students' memory and their understanding. But if you want them to, then if you want to test their how they apply things, how they analyze, evaluate, or create, then probably open-ended questions will be a better option, or maybe matching questions will be better for apply. But as you move up, then open-ended essay type of questions will be better. In maths, we got calculated questions and non-calculated questions, so then they can also be applied to this. Next is how to sequence. If you are delivering an asynchronous or synchronous lecture even, how to sequence your lesson. So you can start with giving them some warm-up or something. It can be a quiz. So let's say you just want them to engage with the topic before you teach. So why not to give them a knowledge check quiz? Maybe ask their opinion, so open-ended questions. Maybe you want to see how much they know about the topic. So some matching, some multiple choice questions. So you can start with a quiz and then you deliver a lecture, or maybe there's a video. If it is asynchronous, then again some quiz, then again another video or lecture. And in this way you can sequence your lesson. So short bursts of lectures and then some activity in which they engage independently or maybe with their peers if they are sitting somewhere together. And what you can do, you can use brainstorming, you can use self-assessment, you can pause after this point of your lecture and you want them to engage in some kind of reflection. So you use some questions through this quiz module. Then you want to test their core concepts that they have learned up till this stage. So then you include some core concepts in this quiz. And then you want them to write some reflection, maybe 50 words or 60 words. So then you can use another quiz here. It can be exit tickets and it can be used by you for individual and group evaluations. Next, I'm sharing some of the activities. They may not be relevant to all of you, but you can get an idea how to design your quizzes, or even if you're not designing your quizzes, what kind of activities you can have. Maybe some of you are already doing them. So background knowledge probe. So before introducing an important new concept, you can check how much they know about it. It can be done through the quiz module, and you can choose according to the Bloom's taxonomy what you want to test. Obviously, background knowledge means knowledge is normally at the level of remembering and understanding. So you can add some questions, multiple choice. You can add some matching questions and maybe one odd open-ended question. Then minute paper, that is short paper. So it can be an open-ended essay type of question. You can add one question there, they do it, you give them some time, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, they write their answer, and then they submit it. You can see and you can check their understanding. Then focused listing, so they can list certain things. That is also possible in Moodle. This question types, different kind of lists are also possible. Application cards, this will be analysis, application and evaluation. So you teach them a theory and then you want them to apply it to some real life situation. So maybe you can create an open-ended question, or they can record themselves. And finally, 3-2-1 response. So it can be an exit ticket. You have finished the lesson, now they want to get an exit. It is an asynchronous lesson. They completed it. You want to check how much they learned. So you can create an exit ticket quiz where you ask them what are the 3 things they learned, what are the 2 examples they can give, and what is one issue they want to know more about. So these are some of the options. So thank you very much for listening, and I said I'll show you how the report works. So let me move to the report, and this will be the last point. So this is the report that you can see for your students. So this is, let's say, Jerry Hart, a student. The quiz finished, it was on this date. He completed it on this date, so 9 and 9:53 in 1 minute. The student completed the quiz and took 48 seconds exactly. The grade is 44. Question number 1 was wrong, the answer was wrong. Question number 2, the answer was correct. Now you want to see further what's inside the question. So you can click here and this will show you the whole report of the question. Let me log in if it allows me. So for individual questions, this is the report that you see. Sorry, again, wrong window. So I want to see what was students' attempt at question number 1. So it shows me everything about that question. Question number 1, the answer, correct answer was false, but the student chose true. This is the feedback provided by you, right, to the wrong answer. And you can just add some comment here. Then you can see here when the student started the question and when the question was ended. So the time and everything is available, and you can see report for each and every question. For example, the other day I received a complaint from a faculty member that the students, she said 1 hour, but the student completed the report was telling that the student took them more than 1 hour. And it means some student took advantage, whereas the other finished quiz within 1 hour. And in the case of some students, the time was more than 20 and 30 minutes, the extra time. So she asked me to check, and then I needed to go to individual question to see when was the last question submitted. And that last submission told me that nothing unfair was done. Actually, there was some script problem. The Moodle couldn't update the script, and it was showing that extra time was taken, whereas the questions were telling me that the attempt was submitted at this time. So this is how to use quiz, not just to assess our students, but you can use them to engage your students in active learning, thinking how to do it, depending on the needs of your lesson, on the needs of your course, and on the needs of your students. Now, if you have any questions, any comments, please feel free to turn on your mic and share these with us. And if there are no question and comments. So thank you very much for your patience joining me and listening to me for this more than 1 hour. I said 1 hour, but it took a little longer. Rahman got some comment. Yes. I mean, one way to do it, why not to, we talked about question bank. So why not to ask your students to create a question bank themselves, and then they submit the questions to you and you put them in the question bank and then you choose from those questions. Rather, there's a plugin where the students can go directly and they can submit their question in the plugin. They don't need to give it to you, then you don't need to put into the question bank. So they submit it directly to Moodle and then you can choose from there. So I mean, just imagine if the students are creating their own questions, what kind of deep mental processes they need to engage with the contents, and it can be very useful. So Raman, you're right. I mean, these can be as a pool. What we call question bank is actually a pool. And as I said, every time you add a question, it goes to the pool, it goes to the question bank in your course. Then there are possibilities where we can connect teachers. So let's say, for example, Maqsad creating a question bank for his course can be shared by Murad Beg, and Murad Beg creating a question bank for his course can be borrowed by Maqsad. So that can also be done. It just needs to make a little bit of changes in the permissions, and then you can borrow questions from each other's course and use them if you're teaching the same course. For example, English, multiple faculty members teach the same course, so they can borrow from each other. Or if there are two courses on both campuses, one course on both campuses, so campus 1 can borrow from campus 2 and campus 2 can borrow from campus 1. So you're right, Rahman. Yes, this is a good idea. So thank you very much, and see you again next Tuesday, same time, with another module to do. Thank you very much for joining, sparing your time, and be with me. See you. Thank you. Bye-bye.